I want to go to NYU.
Arizona State.
Miami, Ohio.
University of Michigan.
Everyone has their dream schools, making the college admissions process one of the most overwhelming times of a student's academic career. This episode will highlight important experiences Jones seniors had throughout their admissions journey, including how they selected their schools, crafted their applications, and dealt with the results. We'll talk about rejection, growth, and the resilience through it all. I'm Alisha Verma, and this is College Confidential.
I'm Jason Bernstein. I'm a senior.
I am Madeline Schubring. I'm a senior.
Hi, I'm Ariel McKee. I am currently a senior here at Jones. I applied to 18 schools, and I'm going to Purdue University. I just committed recently to Wellesley College.
And I'm going to Bucknell University next year.
Jason Bernstein is a varsity baseball pitcher at Jones. He initially applied early decision to Wake Forest University, a liberal arts school in North Carolina. He felt his essay was the strongest part of his application.
I tried to use a lot of my extracurriculars to really tell my story, and especially I would say the biggest thing is the essay. I didn't take all that many APs, but I mean my GPA was pretty good, but for my application I really wanted to make sure I had a good essay, and I started on that really early.
Jason channeled his personal experiences growing up in Chicago into his essay.
I feel like you have more freedom than people think you do. There's a lot of leeway when it comes to what you can put on a college application, and so I think the biggest thing is making sure that you tell your story and not just let the grades do the talking.
Jason was very committed to a niche idea of what he wanted in a college, which simplified his process of selecting potential schools.
I wanted an East Coast liberal arts school that's still Division I. I've just always loved the East Coast. My mom's from the East Coast, so I really wanted to go East, and the West Coast wasn't attractive to me, and why would I want to stay in the Midwest? So I knew I wanted to go East, and I thought initially, like my freshman sophomore year, I want a giant school. I want so many people to be there, and it just kind of went away. Like I wanted either a smaller mid-sized school, and I'm only going to a school now with 4,000 kids.
After receiving a rejection from his dream school, Wake Forest, Jason allowed himself to develop the understanding that he wasn't defined by that rejection.
So basically, I initially applied early decision 1 to Wake Forest University in North Carolina. And because I visited over the summer, I actually didn't visit Bucknell over the summer, but it was like in the back of my mind. And so I applied Wake Forest early decision, and I got rejected. So obviously for the next few days, it sucked, and I was really upset. But to be quite honest, after a week, you're pretty much fine. You'll think that sort of sadness is going to last forever. It doesn't. You'll be fine the next week.
Jason has a new outlook on the schools he applied to, and he found the same feeling of excitement in Bucknell that he had previously reserved for Wake Forest.
If you were to ask me now, would I rather go to Wake Forest or Bucknell, I'd 100 out of 100 times say I'd rather go to Bucknell.
Madeline Schubring is a political science major with a minor in environmental policy and justice on the pre-law track. After her junior year ended, she began to seek out additional leadership opportunities to strengthen her application.
I really focused on looking into programs I was already involved with and looking for possible leadership positions or higher positions I could take in that organization. So, for example, I had been volunteering with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society for all of my junior year, and I knew that I was going to continue working with them. But I inquired about a possible higher position that I could take, and I was given that position. And so I think that really helped accelerate my application.
She narrowed down her college applications by considering location, study abroad opportunities, and financial feasibility.
In regards to location, I knew I either wanted to be on the East Coast or stay in the Midwest, and that's what I'm doing. And as for study abroad, and internship purposes, like I looked into possible programs abroad if I could get internships abroad. I looked at like costs for that to see what I thought was reasonable, like length of time. I really want to do 1 semester or a whole year abroad. So some schools that don't offer that were definitely off my list. I also looked into finances a lot because that's, although something like that's very stressful, it's something that's really important.
Madeline's dream school was Northeastern University, a school located in Boston. She was ecstatic when she received her acceptance, but was ultimately guided to a different choice.
Purdue is not my dream school. My dream school was a lot more challenging to get into, and I did get into it. But after a lot of thought and careful consideration, I realized that although it looks pretty on paper, it's really not the best school or the best environment for me to be in.
Through the process, Madeline learned the importance of not only limiting her character to her academic performance.
I think that building your resume as even a freshman or an incoming freshman is super duper important, because I think that it shows like commitment and dedication to schools. I think that's really what they focus on. And focusing on making your application very well-rounded. I know a lot of people who solely focused on academics, and although a 4.0 looks very pretty on paper and a 1600 SAT score looks very good, at the end of the day, that's not what colleges are only focused on. And I think that making your application and yourself as well-rounded as possible is the most important in this whole process.
If she were to redo this process, Madeline would apply to less schools.
I think I would have applied to less schools. For a few reasons. One, because it was costly. I mean, applications do cost money, and we probably ended up spending like upwards of $1,000 on just applications alone, and I think that it would have been better to save that money. I also think that although I'm so like beyond grateful to be accepted into so many schools, it definitely did make my decision a lot harder. And I think that I decided a lot later than people because I just felt like super overwhelmed with trying to imagine myself at all these different places.
Arielle McGee is a data science major who is the student body president and leads various clubs. She only applied to extremely selective schools and applied restrictive early action to Yale University.
Really, all my schools had a 20% acceptance rate or lower, except for Spelman. And I think I applied to 13 schools total. So truth be told, I didn't really broaden my scope that much, and I kind of wish I did, only just because like I could have had more scholarship offers and offers in terms of aid if I had applied to more schools, so I could compare and contrast a lot more.
The first rejection she received was from Yale University, which she applied restrictive early action to. Restrictive early action means you can only apply to one school early, severely decreasing your chances of admission into other schools.
And I was so I was so sure that I would get in and that I would go and I wouldn't have to worry about any other schools. And I was like, I'll just be done. And that didn't happen. And so I had to apply to more schools, really sell myself to other schools, and also deal with like the rejection of not getting into my top school at the same time. And then once other schools came out, I just got a lot of no's from a lot of other schools at the same time that I was getting my few yeses here and there, but it was a lot of back-to-back no's.
Despite the disappointment of rejection, Arielle kept a positive outlook.
I just kept reminding myself that like the numbers don't really mean anything. And no, I shouldn't say that they don't mean anything, but like compared to my academic history, I'm not any less qualified for these schools because I've gotten a no. So even though like the admissions officers might not see that I am like the best for, say, Stanford or USC, that doesn't mean that if I did get in, I wouldn't do great. And that's kind of all that mattered at that point to me, you know. I felt like my scores were great, my writing was great. There were some parts of my application that I wish I could have done better. For example, applying to STEM, applying as a computer science major, but I didn't have an extensive computer science background in my courses that I took at high school. But in general, I felt like I did good. You know, I did the best I could do for high school. And if other schools feel like there are other students that have done better and might do better at their school, that's unfortunate, but that doesn't change how I'm still going to do good in college wherever I go. And that's why I applied to all these good schools because, you know, my goal is to do good.
As an end to this podcast, the seniors wanted to leave the underclassmen with some words of advice.
I would say it's more intimidating when you're not doing anything in like junior year, when you're just kind of sitting there and seeing all these seniors, on the decision day page and they're all getting into these schools. I would say that's more intimidating than the college process itself, and it's more stressful because once you start the process, then you're doing something about that stress.
I got rejected from my dream schools. I can tell you probably at least 20 other seniors who got rejected from their dream schools. I know a lot of people who are going to their dream schools or who the school that they're going to now, it has become their dream school, like me. But I don't think it's very common for everyone to always get into their dream schools. Not because there's a problem with them or because there's a problem with the school. It's just the nature of life, I guess.
Yeah, college isn't the end all be all. And to not take the application process too seriously, definitely prioritize it, but don't let it run your life.
Thank you for listening to the first episode of our series, College Confidential. As this podcast continues, we'll follow the application process from the start, speaking with rising seniors over the course of the next year as they commit to the next chapter of their lives. We'll hear about how they develop a list of schools to apply to, build their applications, receive their results, and confront the stress of it all.